Hi, and welcome to my series Can I Rig It?, where I take random objects from real life and see if I can rig them in Blender. And today I'm gonna try to rig this PIXAR lamp that you might know from their intros. And we'll do this using the following steps. First we will create the base rig, then we will create 3 inverse kinematic setups that we will connect to each other. We will add some constraints to limit the movement of certain parts. We'll add additional control bones. We'll also rig some springs so they squash and stretch with the rig. And we'll end by giving the bones some easy to control shapes. By the way, I'm Nico, a 3D artist, and my passion are robots and other mechanical creations. Hello everyone, and welcome to my next rigging tutorial. And maybe you've seen this already. I posted this on social media recently. And yeah, this is the PIXAR lamp. I saw this picture especially. I think this is like their statue in front of their studio. I saw this and I found this mechanism very intriguing. So I thought, okay, this might be actually a fun exercise. So I would say, let's get started. And here we go. So as you can see here, this is the rig that we're gonna create. This is how it works. This is how it behaves. So this will be very interesting and very fun to do, I think. So this is the end result, and we're gonna start from scratch. So we need a lamp first. So I have a brand new lamp here without any rig. And by the way, this file here with the lamp and with the rig, you can download from the link in the description below. It leads to my Patreon, but it's a free asset, so you don't need to subscribe or anything. You can just grab it and follow along or play with it. But I would obviously appreciate if you would maybe join my Patreon to support the channel. And the first thing that I always like to do is to first define how do we want to move this lamp. So the best way I found is that it's to just move the head around and that everything else will be resolved through the system that we're gonna set up. So the starting point is the foot and the end point is the lamp shade. So the first question is, how do we get there? And there are multiple ways to get there, to where to put in the bones. And I found that this path here that I'm just drawing now, this is the easiest and most direct path and we can go. All those parts here, this here and this here, these are just additional like supports. But this is the main structure that will follow the head, and all the other parts will move with it. And for the system to work, we will use an IK system. And we're gonna create our first bones. So let's take this as a starting point. Shift A, armature, single bone. First, we're gonna maybe go into edit mode and scale it down. And also in the armature properties, we're gonna check in front so we see always the bones. So let's put it in here. And we're gonna extrude with E and create our chain. Okay, and since this piece is the last one in the command, this will be controlled by the IK controller. So we're gonna press one more E to extrude it, then Alt P to clear the parent so that it's disconnected, and this is our chain. And now I'm gonna show you how to quickly set up an IK instead of going to the constraints and selecting it. There's an easier way. If you go into pose mode, you can select first the controller, then shift select the first bone in the chain, shift I, and select to active bone. And now we immediately have our first IK setup. That was super easy, and when you click on the yellow bone, you see there's this whole IK setup already. Okay, so far so good. What we're gonna do first, before we move any further, we need a root bone. A root bone is one where all the other bones are connected to, so when we move it, the whole lamp will move. So we're gonna just extrude one bone here. This looks good, but now this is a child to this one here because we extruded from this one. And we want to reverse it because this one should be the first one in the whole armature chain. So we're gonna select this one, then this one, Control P, keep offset because otherwise it would snap to this point here. And now this one is connected to this one. So when we move this now, you can see we have almost like another IK target, but this is just the base of the whole IK chain. So this is our root bone, we can also call it root, and this is our IK target. Okay, and now, as you can see here, the chain goes completely up to this point here, up to the root bone. But we don't want the root bone to rotate, and we also don't want this one to rotate. But for now, we're gonna limit the chain to this part here. For now, I'm gonna explain why. So far, this looks good. And now I would suggest, let's go into edit mode again, and we're gonna create some bones for these pieces here. So we're gonna extrude one from here, And then this is connected to this piece here again, because this whole piece connects those two parts here. This one and this one, these are connected by this huge piece here. So we're going to connect them also by extruding one more bone in this direction. And this one also needs an IK controller or an IK target. But since these are connected already, or almost, we want to connect them, we can just use this one as our IK target, which is also fairly simple. We just select this one, then shift select in pose mode, this bone, shift I to active bone. And now this one also snaps to this bone. Now when we move it, you already kind of see, okay, this is moving with us, but there are still some weird things going on. And this is, first of all, mostly because this chain is also going completely down. But we only want those two bones here to move. So we're going to limit this chain, as we did before with the other one, to just two. So the influence of this bone only goes so far here. Now when we move this already looks way better. Okay, so that's pretty cool. One more IK chain. So we're going to repeat the process by creating a new bone here. So let's go into object mode, maybe put the 3D cursor there, then back into edit mode, shift A to create a new bone. This is way too big, so let's go here, and this one will go here. And this one will also be connected to the IK target, because this is one big piece that moves again those pieces together. So let's create one more bone here that connects to this one here. And now in pose mode again, we do the same as with the other ones. First select the IK target, then the first bone in the chain, shift I, select, and that's it. And we already have this chain here. And why it's not going down completely is because we created this bone separately. We didn't extrude anything, so this is almost like a new fresh start for a new chain. So we need to first parent this one to this one here, because this is one piece again that's moving everything together. So Control P, keep offset, and now this is connected to this bone here. And now if we go into pose mode again, you see this chain is going completely to the start, but we don't want to have that. We just want this to go here. So again, we're going to limit it to just 2 steps. And now let's see how this whole thing moves. Awesome. This is already pretty cool. Okay, so far so good. So now we still need one bone for the head. So let's create one more bone. Let's copy maybe this one, put it right here. And we're gonna parent this one to this bone here. So Control P, keep offset. And now in pose mode, it moves with this piece here because this bone is connected to this whole piece. So as soon as this bone moves, this head also should move with it. Okay, so now this is already looking good. The next thing is I would suggest we parent the geometry to the bones. And it's fairly easy. You just select the geometry first, then the armature, go into pose mode with Control Tab, select the bone, Control P, select bone. And now when we move the bone, you see the geometry follows the bone. And we need to repeat that for all the other bones, so I'm just gonna fast forward. So you're gonna do it by yourself, just parent all those to the nearest bone. So this one needs to be connected to this bone here. And at the top, we want this part here to be connected to this bone here, because this bone is controlling both of these ones here, which are connected together by this piece here. Okay, and the lampshade is also connected to this bone. Okay, so now if we move this whole thing, yeah, everything is moving with us. But there are a few problems that we still have. This whole setup is very flexible, which is kind of cool. In most cases, it's actually good. But since the lamp is built like this, all the parts can only rotate on one axis. This is how it's built. So this part, for example, can only rotate on this one axis, and these can only rotate on these axes here. So we need to set up some limitations for our bones so that they don't move in a way that it's not realistic for this kind of look. So for example, it shouldn't be possible to do this, because then you see everything is like falling apart. This shouldn't be possible. So let's go back and we will set up some limitations. So this bone, for example, every bone has their bone properties, and there's an inverse kinematics tab. And here you can lock certain axes. So when we go into the viewport display of the whole armature, you can show the axis, and we want, as you can see here, all the bones just to rotate on their z-axis. So this is the y-axis, this is the x, and this is the z. And all of them have their z pointing towards us, basically. So we want this to be the only axis that is working. All the other ones should be locked. So we do this by going here. So we go into the inverse kinematics of the bone properties, and we lock x and y. And we do this also for this one. And when I move it now, you can see, even if I move it left and right, they don't want to rotate. They even disconnect here because they say, that's not where I want to go or where I can go. So this is what we want to have with all the bones. So we're going to just select all of them. This one here too. And now we're going to hold Alt and select these two. And now these two locks are set up for all the bones. So when we go to, no matter which bone we select, you see they are all locked. Now when we move it left and right, you see they don't want to go left and right anymore because they can't. They are locked. No matter how I move it, they only move on their one z-axis, which is what we want. So that's cool. But now you might think, well, what if the lamp needs to rotate to the left and to the right and maybe move a little bit like to this point here, to this point? It can't. So what we can do now is when we select the main bone with the IK constraint, we can make the chain larger by just one more bone, this one here. So far this is not locked. This should move in all directions. So let's see what it does. Okay, it moves in all the directions, so now the lamp can suddenly go in all the directions. But this is not the movement that this part actually can do. This is not supposed to happen. So this also needs some limitations. And what we can do now is limit also its rotations to only rotate on its y-axis. That's what this part does, right? It only rotates on its local y-axis, which is this one here. So again, we go into the inverse kinematics and we lock everything but the y-axis. So now when we move the main controller, now you can see that it rotates and it gives us some flexibility to move around, but all the parts, so when I hide everything but the bone, you see all the parts move within their limitations, but this is what they actually would do. So this is already pretty cool. So this is working, but there are still some kinks with the setup. For example, when we go a little bit too far here, it suddenly snaps back. Just in a little amount of degrees, it kind of snaps. I'm not sure why this is happening. So if you know why this is happening, please comment in the comments below, because I have no idea. So this would be cool to use like this, but this is not what we're gonna do. Because we also want the lamp to do one thing, and this is basically the little tail wiggle. Okay, so this is so far what we can do. We can move it left and right, we can kind of rotate it. This is pretty cool, but yeah, it is hard to control. So what there also is, what we can do is when you go into the IK constraints, there's this one field that is empty so far, which is pole target. And a pole is basically, I can show you very quickly, we want to control where this kind of elbow is pointing towards. And we can do this if we create one more bone, and this also should be disconnected and cleared without any parent. Let's put it right here. And this will be our pole, so let's call it pole. And we go into the IK constraint from this bone. We can select first the armature, then the pole, and now it snaps in a weird position. This is depending on how you set up the bones, you just need to correct it, and for this one, the pole angle needs to be 180 degrees. Then it snaps back again. Sometimes it's 90, sometimes it's minus 90. It always depends on how you create your bones in the first place. So now, since this is now our pole, when I move it left and right, you can see I can control where this kind of elbow or knee or whatever you want to call it is pointing towards. And this is what we're gonna create also here for basically his little butt. So we go into edit mode, create a new bone, disconnect it, maybe put it in here, call it also pole. And now these two, because these two are pointing towards it, these two are getting the pole. So let's first take this one, select the armature, select the pole, and now you can already see this is moving, so this is good. The same thing we're gonna do here, so select the pole also, and now everything is following, and we can already kind of when we go a little bit down, we can kind of already create this little butt wiggle. But there's also one more thing that's driving me nuts sometimes. I think it makes sense, but I'm still not sure why it makes sense. As soon as you add a pole, all those IK locks don't work anymore. So when we move this here left and right, let's put it maybe a little bit lower, you can already see that this bone suddenly shifts to the side, even though we locked it. And it doesn't work anymore. And it's only for the last bone in the chain here. I'm not sure why this is. I'm pretty sure there is a logical explanation for it, but unfortunately we can't use this anymore. So we will need to take these ones away again, and we need to limit this chain again to one step less for this one here. So now it rotates only around this point here. Now you can see we can move this completely around it, and it rotates between this IK target and the last bone in the chain. There's one more thing that we can do, and this is that the lamp shade is also moving with the whole body. And this is kind of looking weird because we also want the body to move independently of the head. This makes everything a little bit easier, so to have just one controller for everything, which will be this one here. So what I like to do is take this one here, and we're gonna copy the rotation of the IK target. With the bone constraint, copy rotation. Very simple. We select the armature again, and we select the IK target. And now when we rotate the target, the head is also rotating. And since most of the time we just move the IK target, so we move it up and down, left and right, but we never rotate it, this lack of rotation will be also translated to the lamp head. So when it's pointing upwards, the head is also pointing upwards. Now we have like this kind of chicken head thing where no matter how we move it, the head always stays horizontal. But when we want, we still can rotate the head no matter how we want it. And now when we, for example, want to create this butt wiggle, I can move it left and right, and you see the head stays completely focused on one thing. And basically our work is done. One thing that I also want to do is parent this geometry to actually this bone here. So this one here, because we also would like to have control over the lower body, because when the lamp is in the air, it should also be allowed to move this part here independently, to have the ability to squash and stretch the whole armature in the air. And the root bone originally is to move the whole rig around, but so far it's also just moving the foot around. But the IK and the pole target, they are completely independent. But what we can do is we can select both of these and parent them to the root bone. That's no problem at all. So now we can move the whole lamp in pose mode, which is sometimes necessary. We can also rotate the whole lamp. This is pretty much it. I think we have now a great rig for the lamp. We can wiggle it, we can rotate its butt, we can pose it wherever we want, we can make it very curious, we can make it very exciting. I like that the lamp, it has only one bulb, but it's very expressive. That's what I like about this character. And one more thing that we can do to make things a little bit more accessible, I always like to promote this add-on called Bone Widget, which gives you a few nice shapes for your bones. And you have a list of various shapes I like to use for this one. I like to use the sphere, and you just click create, and now we have a little sphere here to control the whole thing. For the root bone, there's also a root shape, which is very universal in many rigs. And for the pole, I like to use the pyramid shape. And one more thing we can do is go into the bone collections and create a new collection. So let's call it maybe main, and just take the main bones that we need for controlling and put them in this collection. So we select the foot, we select the pole and the IK target, press M and select main. And now they are part of this collection. So when I hide everything else, we just have those here. And for this one, I can also maybe use the FK limb. Pretty cool. So this is our little PIXAR lamp. Okay, and now you may have realized there's still one more thing missing. And these are actually these springs here. So how do we rig the springs so that they contract and extend to those 2 points here? So these springs are actually a curve. When you go into edit mode, you see these are a curve. You can also see it here. and this curve has a thickness of 0.2 centimeters. They are actually easy to create. You don't have to model the whole spring. You just need to go to your add-ons and just type in curve and check extra curve objects. Then when you press Shift A and go into curve, you have also those additional shapes, for example, spirals. And I took the Archimedean spiral. So this is how it looks like. It's pretty big, but there are so many settings here. But you can also change the height. Suddenly you see all those 5 turns are added, and now you can create a very nice spring. And these are also driven by bones. First, we're gonna create another bone. So we go into edit mode. First, let's change the display to stick so we see a little bit more of what we're doing here. I'm gonna put the 3D cursor in here, and now Shift A, create a new bone. It's this very large bone, so we need to scale it down again to be very small. Okay, and we're just gonna put it here where the spring is. Maybe off to the side. Okay, this is pretty good. Now this bone will be connected to this one because this end is connected to this one. Now let's go back one more time to see the octahedral look, because we need to know where the start and where the end is. So this is the start, so this bone needs to be parented to this one with an offset. And this one also needs, again, a target bone to be stretched to. So we will create one more bone, disconnect it again, clear parent. This one will be connected to this one because this is the other side that we want to stretch to. So parent, keep offset. And now in pose mode, this will get a new constraint, which is called stretch to. Pretty simple. We select the target as this little fella here. Oh, first the armature, of course, and then the bone. And you can already see this stretches now to this bone here. So let's move everything and see how it works. So it's squashing and stretching as it should be. But what about the spring now? How do we parent the spring so that it actually also contracts and stretches? Well, let's go back into stick view. So there's a modifier called hook modifier. With this you can hook certain vertices to objects, so only those vertices are connected, but not the whole object. And this is what we're going to do, and connect all the vertices of the curve to this whole bone. So when the bone will be stretched, all those vertices will also be stretched proportionally. And how we do it is by first selecting the armature, going into edit mode, selecting the bone, then shift selecting the spring. Now we go into edit mode, select all the vertices here with just A. So the whole spring is selected. Press Ctrl H for a new hook, and then you can say hook to selected object bone. And this will choose this one bone that we selected beforehand in edit mode. So now we go back into object mode, pose mode, and now when we move, let's hide maybe this one so we can see what's happening. You can see that the spring, it's actually stretching and squashing between those two parts. And we're gonna repeat this for the other parts. So first, again, edit mode, we're gonna copy these two bones, Shift D, move them on the Y-axis. We choose this bone, go into object mode, and again, shift select the spring, edit mode, select all of them, Ctrl H, hook to selected object bone, and now it's working. So let's do this for the other springs too. Clear parent, and this one will be connected to this bone here. And this one is connected to this whole piece, which is controlled by this bone. So this will be the child of this bone. Okay, let's test it out. Almost. We need the stretch to constraint, obviously. So we select the armature first, then this bone here, which is bone 13. And sometimes this can also happen, that this stretch to like overshoots. I'm not sure why this happens, but when you just click on here, original length, and just on the X, this will adjust the length to the target. So this should be okay then. Let's do the same. Again, duplicate this one with Shift D, and yeah, this looks good. So let's see. Yeah, they all stretch very well. So the one remaining thing is to do the same thing with the hook. everything is squashing and stretching. And as you can see, this is now fairly well visible. Okay, so this is working very well. And now I need to address two more things that are not working perfectly, but I think it's worth sacrificing the realism in exchange for flexibility and more possibilities. And this is, for example, that, as you can already see, we can move the lamp left and right. And this hinge should actually allow us to move this whole thing left and right, because there is just this one thing. It can only rotate around it, right? But we are still able to move this whole lamp left and right. And the same thing is also with the head. When I move it to the side, the head also can move to the side. This shouldn't be possible when we're very strict. But I decided to leave it as it is because I tried. And trust me, I tried a lot to get this right. And it's possible, but the rig would become so complex and so difficult to control that I decided it wouldn't be worth the effort. Because in the end, it's a trade-off. Can you sacrifice realism for the character to be easy to use and to rig, to animate, and to be very expressive? And in this case, I would say yes. It is possible to make everything very realistic. So I could add more bones, more constraints, more limitations for everything to work perfectly. But in the end, first of all, the rig would be very heavy and very hard to use. You would only battle the rig and all the constraints and all the bones and switch between many bones, when in the end you just need maybe 2 or 3 bones to control the whole character and bring it to life. So to recap, we have now a rig that has a main root bone. We have the foot that is independent and very flexible to use. We have a head that can move around. We can move the head so you can make the lamp look at a certain thing. We can adjust the rotation of the whole body with this little thing. We can make his butt a little wiggle. And overall, so yeah, that's pretty much it. It was a lot of fun coming up with this rig. I hope you had a lot of fun, maybe also recreating it while watching the tutorial. I hope it was very helpful. If you have any questions, then please leave them in the comments below. And also, if you have ideas for future rigs, then write them also in the comments below so I can check them out, and maybe one of those will be in a future video. Other than that, I need to do the YouTube thing, so please, if you liked the video, please like it. If you didn't like it, then please don't like it. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you really would like to support me, then maybe consider joining my Patreon. There's a lot of cool stuff, including my beginner rigging course, which is a tutorial series where I teach you the basics of mechanical rigging, like how pistons work, or cables, or robot arms and legs, gears, all that fun stuff. And you would also support the channel and the production of my short film series Mavericks. Other than that, thanks for watching, it was a pleasure, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.